Yuri and his parents entered the Knights Academy. His mind lingered to the past conversation he had with his father. He was surprised that the Knights Academy had 2 facilities. His father, Luke, answered that the Knights Academy also has a reformatory. That's why they collectively call it an institution. The Knights Academy as for the boys, and the girls will study at the reformatory. Yuri asked if Knights Academy was place for someone to become a knight. What are the girls studying in the reformatory? Luke answered that the girls will study bureaucrat. That's why the people who enter the reformatory are witches. Yuri was surprised, so he asked about them. According to Luke, witches are a term used to refer to civil servants who serve the royal family. And this reformatory is like a training institution for them to hone their skills. Many women from the witches' families attend the reformatory, but few people like Satsuki come from knight families to attend as part of their education. On the other hand, Knight Academy is a school that provides military education to knights, and attaining knighthood is a certificate of graduation from this school. Only boys from knight families attend the Knights Academy, but there are also some cases of girls from the witch families attending there. Those ladies are said to be promised a path to become a royal guard. His father then said that whatever he learns in the Knights Academy depends on himself, and if he doesn't like something, it's fine to drop out. And that no matter path he takes, they will be there to support him. Yuri thought that he endured Soim's beatings and worked very hard, so he'll probably manage. Yuri noticed everyone looking at his father. He realized that the gazes his father is receiving is because of him receiving the title of the head without the title of knighthood. Yuri thought that these guys look troublesome, that he doesn't even want to think about the future. They went and filled out the form, and after confirming the details, he was guided to the next room. Yuri's parents shouted and cheered for him, making him blush from embarrassment. Few minutes later, they reached the exam room. Yuri was surprised that the exam had already started. He noticed that there were some students that are leaving already. He thought, was there a chance that the questions are being leaked? He then noticed that the test doesn't seem to have a time limit. He thought, shouldn't all tests start the same? The lady then told him to sit and she will prepare his test, and Yuri complied. The examiner handed the test and it was on a wooden board. Yuri thought, were they trying to save parchment by doing this? After reading the questions, he thought that the questions were too easy to solve, so he wondered what was the point of Satsuki teaching him 3 years ago. He handed his finished test and the examiner checked his test. After checking, the examiner then said that he was to be guided in perfect score room. So Yuri asked, was he getting interviewed or something? The examiner replied that he wasn't. He told Yuri that he will be taking another test, and that the test here was just to check his competence. Yuri understood what they were trying to do. Since there's no elementary schools, so academic knowledge is minimum for children. There are some like Yuri who even learned the ancient Shan language, and there were some children who was raised to be free-spirited because they are going to study at the academy anyway. The first test was to classify which children belong to certain groups. That's why they didn't use parchment for the exam and instead used a wooden board. Yuri apologized for at the examiner before leaving. Yuri thought that he should have known about this, but it seems like his father forgot to tell him about the exams a bit more. He looked around after taking a seat and he saw the number of students decreased. That means there were a lot of students who could not achieve a perfect score. Yuri thought that since it was a night school, academic aren't as important as the reformatory. The proctor entered the room, apologizing for the late arrival. The proctor then announced that they will be starting the exam now, but there was someone else behind her. There was a girl with a blonde hair following behind her. As the girl entered the room, everyone was awestruck and staring at her. The girl sat on the front of the room, and Yuri was left wondering. Yuri stared at the girl. He somehow recognized the girl's blonde hair. The last time that he saw a blonde hair was back in the royal castle. Her name the Princess Carol. He thought that this girl might be her. The proctor clarified that the examination will end once all the sand in the hourglass falls. She then placed the hourglass and started the exam. Everyone started answering the paper except for Yuri. He thought that the questions were difficult, that even he would take time to answer. There was a map, followed by the questions on how to move the soldiers through the field, and questions with military terminology that frequently appears in the military books. There were also math problems that requires you to find the squares using Pythagorean theorem. He thought that this isn't an exam a 10-year-old would take. And more importantly, there wasn't a single question about the ancient Shan language. He thought that if there wasn't a question about the ancient Shan language, then there was no need for him to memorize all of what his aunt told. He wanted to ask his aunt what were her intentions on teaching him the language, but right now they live in a different mansion in the royal capital. Yuri started to answer the exam, trying to finish it quickly. He finished the exam quickly, with more than half of the time left in the hourglass. Everyone was surprised and stared at him, while Yuri asked if he was allowed to leave. The proctor said that he can't return once he leaves, and Yuri answered that he doesn't mind since he had done everything that he can. He then excused himself in the examination room, back at the room where the parents were waiting for their kids to finish the exam. Rook and Gala are having an arm wrestling competition. Rook taunted Gala if that was the extent of Konoe's strength, and Gala replied that he could say the same to him. Rook tried to fight back, but Yuri saw them and asked what they were doing, which made Rook lose focus. Gala took advantage of the situation and slammed Rook's hand on the table. He then said to him that he let his guard down. Gala told Yuri that it has been a while. Yuri greeted back, since the last time they met was in the royal capital. Gala was surprised that Yuri remembered. Gala then said that there's still an hour left, and asked Yuri if he will be able to pass the exam. Yuri replied that he thinks he did well, but he can't say if he will get a perfect score or not. Gala then said that maybe Yuri will meet his son in the future, asked him to get along with his son. He added that his son is a naughty kid, so make sure to punch him when the time comes. Yuri asked what's the name of Gala's son. Gala replied that his name was Dola Godwin, and Yuri said that he will remember it, while thinking that if his son inherited Gala's strength, he will be doomed. Yuri asked his father, Rook, to go back now since there was nothing to do after the exam, and then he pointed at his mother, Suzuya, who is incredibly furious at Rook, sitting at the back of the room. Rook thought that it was time to leave to avoid getting in trouble even more. The next day, while they were riding the carriage, Yuri looked around. He feels like they weren't going back home. Rook replied that the graduation ceremony will be held in the royal castle. Yuri replied asking if the queen would be present there. Rook answered that she is because the students who enter the academy are the ones who will carry the future of Shalta on their backs. Yuri sighed. Rook said that there's no use sighing now, and asked that he hasn't seen Yuri hate something so much before. Yuri replied that he hates staying away from them, and it doesn't mean that he will have friends. Rook replied that he will, because he was already friends with Sham. Yuri replied that Sham was an exception. Suzuya then said while crying that she won't be able to see Yuri anymore. Rook tried to calm her down, saying that it's not like Yuri was dying, while Yuri helped in calming her down by saying that he will visit them whenever he can ride the eagle by himself. Suzuya calmed down a bit more after what Yuri said. This was the first time he ever comforted his mother. He thought to himself that he will try not to embarrass his wonderful parents. But at that time, he didn't know what was about to occur. Because that day out of nowhere, he was slapped by a girl for the first time. And this marks the end of chapter 11.
like and subscribe, and click the bell icon so you can be notified for future updates. For other videos like this, click here. Thanks for watching.